It's Davos time again, and the global elite gathered here are facing a very different world than they were just 12 months ago. The deepening Eurozone crisis, the seismic shifts in the Arab world, not to mention growing social discontent. 2012 presents a new and seemingly unpredictable social and economic environment. The mission statement of the World Economic Forum to improve the state of the world, a particularly difficult challenge for this gathering of the rich and powerful.
It's been quite a year, and 2012's 2,600 Davos delegates are meeting under the summit theme, The Great Transformation Shaping New Models, a rallying cry to find new long-lasting solutions to the world's woes. For a third year running, the chronic nature of fiscal debt's hogging the stage, as well as an urgent call to action.
We have a lot of homework that we haven't done. It's not for a lack of diagnosis. I think it's quite well known what we should be doing, but as that sports firm, the advertisement says, just do it, you know.
There is an impressive guest list to tackle these big issues, with the Eurozone topping the bill. There are some 40 heads of state and government participating, including the German Chancellor, Angela Merkel.
For the last 6 months, we've needed both a speedy and a comprehensive solution. European leaders have been neither speedy nor comprehensive. Maybe Davos will present an opportunity for them to actually change that.
Speed is certainly a byword here. One thing 2011 did highlight was the rapid and uncertain nature of change in the world nowadays. Governments will have to ensure its change for the better.
Ahead of the meeting in Davos, the World Economic Forum publishes its Global Risks Assessment, an in-depth document pinpointing some of the major threats we face in the year and decade to come. It's a tough read. The report maps out a potentially dark future unless global leaders act fast to get us back on track. To find out more, I spoke to Lee Howell, who's Managing Director of the World Economic Forum. Lee Howell, many thanks for joining us on Euronews. Fundamental to the Global Risks Report is this concept of dystopia, the opposite of utopia, where you envisage a life of hardship, devoid of hope. How realistic a prospect is that?
And we use the notion of seeds of dystopia. So the idea is, before these seeds actually emerge, can we do something? The roots of this all, though, are related to two significant economic risks. One is severe income disparity. The second risk that's related to this, though, is chronic fiscal imbalances. And it's the combination of the two that's actually quite daunting. In fact, the real challenge right now is growth that leads to employment. So how do you go through a period of austerity, yet make the cuts that are going to lead to growth and confidence, and more importantly, employment? Now, that's just one piece of this dystopian future, but the other side is really around demographics, because you have a great part of the population, half the world is under the age of 27. Unfortunately, most of the people in their 20s are entering the workforce in many parts of the world are not finding employment opportunities. So you see that these various risks can come into play, and that's just on the economic space that clearly would lead to a sense of dystopia, where you don't really have hope for the future. You're about to retire, but you doubt your pension's going to be there. You just graduated from university, but you doubt that a job will be there. In 10 years' time, we could really see the reality of the dystopian future.
Implicit in this, I guess, is a failure of global governance, but we're at a turning point now. Do you think we can rely on our leaders to act and get us out of this potential mess?
I think the problem is that our leaders aren't leading in a sense. They're trying to manage through crisis. Management is really different in the sense that if you actually know that these are certain kinds of problems that are not unique, but there's tried and true remedies. In most instances, what I'm talking about are challenges that are actually quite novel. We've never really seen this. So you're going to have to experiment, be bold, have a vision of the future, take risks. Leaders themselves have to take risks to actually deal with these risks and exercise leadership, right? Not management.
2011 was very much defined, and you touched upon this, by the rise of the Occupy movements, growing social unrest. Do you think our future is going to be defined by their demands?
We've had political movements, revolutions predate the internet. And that's part of really the human history and civilization. But what's been consistent in that is that people, when they're frustrated, back to this notion of dystopia, when they feel that things are not fair, not equal, then I think you get a significant response.
But this rise of people power basically shows that there's very little trust in leadership. trust in forums like Davos in some respects. Is Davos out of date?
No, I think Davos is a reflection of the reality. People want all the stakeholders to come together and look at the issues together. The history of Davos has been about inclusion, and we have all of the top leaders from civil society, particularly NGOs and other groups. But more importantly, as this annual meeting, there's a small Occupy movement in Davos itself. The leader of that group has been invited to what we traditionally have as an open forum. We've asked the head of that movement to join a discussion with, on rethinking capitalism with the likes of Ed Miliband of the UK. So we're very open to it. The first issue here is, together, is to frame the issues correctly, figure out who needs to be involved, a bit of a diagnosis before you prescribe, right? You think before you act, but you have to get the right people together to think and hopefully get them together also to act.
What about the seeds of hope? Where are they?
Well, they're in us, right? That's the history of humanity. We face tough things, but we always overcome, and that's really what keeps us all going, right? That's part of the human condition.
Li Hao, thank you very much.
Thank you.
A select few are invited to the Davos summit for free. For the rest, entry means an expensive ticket. And you could say that if you need to ask the price, there's a good chance you can't afford it.
The chosen few get their badges for Davos. This is one party that's difficult to gatecrash. Getting a ticket's not easy, and it's very expensive. In fact, to come here, you must be a World Economic Forum member. Basic membership, which is by invitation only, of course, costs more than €40,000, and the entry ticket about another 15k. And it's all upwards from there on. As top-class strategic partner, you can bring 5 people along, and that little package, including entry, comes close to €500,000. Participants were a little coy at how much their companies paid.
The sort of money the company is paying for it is actually a lot of money, but it's worthwhile spending it because we see it as a strategic investment. Our company has decided to continue with the World Economic Forum, so it pays off.
I don't really know. I think my husband knows better, but I know it's a lot of money.
But what's the point of holding an event like Davos, crammed full of the world's movers and shakers, if no one hears about it? Fortunately, journalists go for free.
We hope you'll be able to join us for our next special programme, where we'll be throwing the spotlight on the Eurozone crisis and probing key players for answers. And if you want to find out more about the forum, check out our special section online at euronews.net/Davos.